So I was asked by a colleague if I'd take a look at a poem for her to go over with, and so she could use it in class. And of course, my immediate reaction, because it's a colleague of mine, was, no, I ain't doing that. But she explained to me that this poem is very short. It's all of two stanzas, which are like little mini paragraphs in poetry. And I figured I can do two paragraphs of reading and try to interpret that. So the poem is called The Eagle. And we, of course, know what an eagle looks like. It is all over our money. It is the symbol of our nation. We've chose it for a very specific reason because it sort of exudes power and control, and it's just a pretty cool and fierce-looking animal. Believe it or not, I'm gonna give you a little history lesson here. At one point, this almost possibly was going to be the animal of choice on our money, the turkey. No, I'm not lying. It was the turkey. I believe it was Benjamin Franklin who came up with the idea that a turkey was a very resourceful animal and something that would make a great symbol for our country. The turkey. Yeah, I know. Okay, glad we didn't make that poor decision. We've made a lot of poor decisions as a country, but that was not one of them. Sticking with the eagle. Here's the poem. It's by Alfred Lord Tennyson. And oh my God, it's so old. I didn't realize it was going to be this old. Old poetry can be really hard to follow, but I'm going to do the best I can. Here we go. He clasped the crag with his crooked hands, close to the sun in lonely lands. Ringed with the azure world, he stands. The wrinkled sea beneath him crawls. He watches from his mountain walls, and like a thunderbolt, he falls. So, yeah, I got a little chill reading that. That was kind of cool. I mean, I only understood about half of it, but the half I got, I thought was kind of cool. Let me see. We're going to break down the poem, of course. What do I notice right off the bat? Well, sorry, didn't mean to do that. We have a lot of personification at work here. There's definitely alliteration, a use of a simile or two, and then there's this pattern of triple rhyming. I'm sure it has some really clever, amazing, poetic label that goes with it, but I'm going to ignore that. I'm only going to pay attention to the fact that I notice that every one of these little stanzas has three rhymes. A lot of poems we read, they tend to have two at a time, but this guy, Alfred Lord Tennyson, he went for the home run and he came up with three at a time in each of his stanzas. You'll see at the end of the first one, hands, lands, stands, and the second one, crawls, walls, falls. It creates a very nice little effect. All right. Personification. I'll pick that up as I go through the next part. And I'm going to go line by line here. Oh, I keep zooming in. I don't mean to do that. We see here, the first line is, he clasped the crag with his crooked hands. Now, if you've been paying any attention to other videos, we know that this C, clasped, and crag, and crooked, or crooked, that is an example of alliteration. You're getting that k, hard k sound over and over and over, and that's for an effect. And of course, he clasped the crag with crooked hands. That's a great example of personification. We know that birds don't have hands, they actually have talons, right? And that's what they use to grab onto things. But the poet went for hands. And I read somewhere, because I did a little background on the poem, because it's just way too hard for me, that the thought behind the word clasp was very specific. It kind of gives this idea of clasping hands where people shake hands. I can't do it in reverse like this, but you get the idea that it's almost a friendly thing. He grasped a crag, and a crag is like a little jagged line up somewhere in a mountain, a very thin crack or opening. And he goes and he clasps onto that. Kind of cool. That's followed by close to the sun in lonely lands. So I can picture now the bird is way up there. The eagle's way up high near the sun in a place that you and I don't normally get to be unless we're up there somehow by balloon or plane or whatever. So it's a very different perspective. And again, alliteration. He's in lonely lands. He's on his own. Okay. He's not being supported by anybody else. He's on his own. I don't know if he's lonely or if he's actually just kind of strong in this lonely area. Ringed with the azure world, he stands. So azure means blue. And I found this photo online and it's kind of cool. It's a fisheye lens that's taken and it kind of wraps and warps the world. But that description is so powerful. It's ringed with the azure world, he stands. It's like right above him, the world is kind of like a bent out area, almost like a crown or something that's just above him. But he's up there with it. It's around him, surrounds him, and he stands among it. A place that, again, you and I just don't get to be that often, but the eagle gets to be there. Back to the poem for a second. I wanted to make a point that there are two different stanzas at work here. In the first one, we're kind of with the eagle as he zooms in to land up toward this high area. But in the second one, the wrinkled sea beneath him crawls, we get a shift in perspective. Now we're kind of looking from where the eagle is downward. And let's see what the effect is here. The wrinkled sea beneath him crawls. That is a terrific line. I don't care where you put that line. It could be in anything. It could be on the side of a bus as a slogan. I would be impressed by it. Because indeed, when you're high enough, if you're looking at the ocean, it does look like it's just wrinkled. But Tennyson takes it to a new level when he says that it crawls beneath him. Things that crawl beneath you are beneath you. They are unimportant. You are above them. You lord over them. You're kind of like their master. Okay? Or it could just be he's so far away that things look like they're small and crawling below him. Or maybe, because he's an eagle, he's got his eye on his first meal of the day. The next line of the poem. He watches from his mountain walls. Okay? Again, personification, of course. He's watching from his mountain walls. We're treating him as a person, he. And again, if you look at the perspective, I found this nice picture of a wall, of a mountain. I mean, he's way up there looking down, okay? Again, places you and I cannot be. And he rules from that spot. In the last line, and like a thunderbolt, he falls. Clear simile, right? Compared to a thunderbolt. A thunderbolt is something that zigzags down fast and strikes hard. That's what an eagle does. Drops from the sky unaware, and just like that, like a thunderbolt, bye bye lizard or fish in the sea or whatever it is he set his sights on to eat. Okay? Hopefully it's not going to be my dog because my dog isn't that big. So the eagle, I'm going to read it again. He clasps the crag with crooked hands, close to the sun in lonely lands. Ringed with the azure world, he stands. The wrinkled sea beneath him crawls. He watches from his mountain walls, and like a thunderbolt, he falls. So here's what I made out of this. I know this is going to look weird. You see a picture of Napoleon. For some bizarre reason, I thought of trying to come up with an idea. What is this poem about? Is it imagery? Sure, I got some powerful images. But I also thought it was more like an homage. Okay, that's a French word, and we will sometimes call it homage. So this means that you are paying respect to something, and you truly are impressed by it, and you want to honor it. And so Tennyson wanted to honor the eagle for what it was. What is the meaning of the poem? I'm not exactly sure. I definitely got a sense of power. I got a sense of lording over something. You know, again, if you look at the picture of this Napoleon guy, a real person in history, he looks a little eagle-ish, and he's got his stance where he's kind of like, "You're not getting by me. I am the master of everything." And the eagle is a very similar thing. And this poem could be about the freedom of the eagle. He gets to go up high where we never get to go. Maybe that's what it's about. It could be about being trapped. The whole crawling part really kind of gave me a chill because I'm thinking, man, an eagle sits way up there and looks down on me maybe sometimes and thinks, oh, there's a little something I could snap up, right? They're in a place we can't be. The other idea I came to was maybe this is just the poet noticing the eagle and having a great respect for nature at work. The eagle goes up top, waits very patiently. He's the lord of everything from above. And when he decides, he swoops down and he ends the life of some poor other animal. Cycle of life, right? It's the way things go. So, very cool little poem. And I think it's worth exploring and looking at, particularly some of the little techniques that are used. It's fantastic word choice. You've got some great similes and metaphors at work. The personification is just spot on, powerful. And then, of course, you've got some alliteration. So, nifty little poem to go through and take a look at, even though the sucker is like over 200 years old. And I had to do a bunch of research to figure out what's going on, which, by the way, I'm going to mention this. Too many of you, too many students in the world, you have everything at your fingertips. The entire internet is loaded with the answers to so many things. you can go ahead and search for the eagle and write something like The Eagle by Tennyson. What does it mean? And you're going to get some possible ideas of what it means. We prefer, of course, you go through on your own and read it and think through it and figure that out. But when a poem's really hard, there's no problem going and doing some research and then kind of learning from that to look back at the poem and go, oh, I kind of get what's going on. All right. The whole point is to understand and appreciate what a poet has accomplished in such a short little thing. I mean, that's two little tiny stanzas. And yet, I feel like he captured an eagle brilliantly. I mean, I would never attempt to try to write about an eagle now for the rest of my life because I know I can't match up to that. Oh well. Anyway, hopefully this was helpful to you, and it was a pretty good little poem, and now I don't regret that I helped out a colleague.